as we look and stare into the abyss. You never know what's staring back at you. It's coming.
All these voices.
We had tons of activity, including a demon attack that caused JC, the founder of Shadowspit Paranormal, to puke all over the place, like projectile vomit. It was insane. Andy got scratched on the neck. We captured a disembodied face that was screaming, and we also captured a couple different full-body apparitions, which was badass. Now, Baba Yaga was a Slavic witch, but she was also a supernatural guardian. And basically what she did was beat back the forces of evil from the realm of the dead, made a deal with a bunch of witches in the woods in Armenia. She sold her soul. And I am standing out here in the damn rain. I should have listened to my wife. She told me, if you're going out, bring an umbrella. I don't listen. Now I'm getting wet, so I'm sheltering underneath this tree. A nasty creature that I have actually had a run-in with myself. The bastard scratched the hell out of my car and jumped on. It was a mess. I tell the story in the show.
Are you watching? Getting a lot of activity. The spirit box is saying Satan, Paimon, and other major demons, and chanting and singing and whispering. We've never had that before. So you guys are going to have a great episode coming. The camera guy got attacked right now while we were talking. He got scratched. He said something scratched his back, and I looked at his back, and it's got a scratch on it, guys. There's the picture right there.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Staring into the Abyss. I am your host, horror author James Hershey Jr., and with me as always, my co-host, old boy James Ash. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. How's everybody tonight?
On tonight's episode, we are going to be talking about a pretty amazing investigation that we went on recently. Now, this is going to be the next episode of Tales from the Abyss that comes out. I just put one out yesterday, I think, but this is going to be the next one that comes out. And this is kind of a cool story, and it kind of illustrates that old saying that you hear of the Lord works in mysterious ways. And I know in my life, personally, that is very, very true. Because a lot of the times, the things that happen that kind of piss me off at the moment always end up being for a good reason. An example of that would be, say you're in a hurry, and you're just trying to get your wife some lunch or something so you can go do something. And it seems like every slow person in the world gets in front of you. And they're going 10, 15 miles below the speed limit, and you're screaming at the top of your lungs and cursing them and just acting a damn fool inside your car. You're just so angry. But then, as you ride up the road, you see there's a bad accident or something up there. And come to find out, if you would have been going your normal speed, you might have been in that accident. Those kind of things. This was kind of one of those kind of nights. Because originally, what we had planned to do, we were going after the Goat Man that night. That was the plan. There's a Goat Man legend here in Virginia, and we were going to go check it out and see if we could find the Goat Man. So we went down to where the Goat Man is supposed to be, and there were people camping down there. Now you might say, well, so what? Just do it anyway. We could. If it wasn't for the fact that I was trying to film this for an episode, we probably would have. But when you're trying to film for an episode of a show, a lot of times when you have people that are camping in the area, or just people in the area in general, they tend to kind of get in the way and kind of get into your shot and want to be on camera, that kind of thing. So it ends up being a real pain in the butt, and you don't really get a good product at the end of it. And these people were camping right down in the area where we were trying to go. So it was a no-go. Now, close to where the Goat Man is supposed to be, there's another small bridge, and on that bridge there's supposed to be something called the Woman in White. We talked about maybe doing that one instead of the Goat Man. So we're riding around and we're trying to figure out if we want to do the Woman in White or what else we're going to do. When Andy says, hey man, I know this great place that I went and checked out, and it had a lot of activity. I said, okay, what is it? And he proceeded to tell me this legend of what supposedly happened at this place. Now I'm going to share that with you now. According to the legends, at this site in 1951, there was a double murder. This guy grabbed a mother and daughter, and I guess you could say kidnapped them, because he snatched them up and took them way out into the woods to this location. Once he got them to this location, and this is going to be kind of brutal, what I'm about to talk about, but remember, this is the site of a double murder, so it is what it is. Once he got them to the site, he proceeded to rape both of them, the mother and the daughter. Then he slit their throats. Then he cut the breast off of the mother. Now, nobody ever found the breast, so I don't know what he did with them. I don't know if he saved them as trophies and just nobody ever found them, or if he ate them or threw them away, I don't know. But he cut the breast off of the mother. He hung around that area, enjoying the mother and the daughter long after they were dead. He ends up getting in a shootout with the police because the police come looking and they find him, and so there's a shootout that happens. During this shootout, I guess he realizes he's kind of screwed, and he shoots himself. He kills himself. So on the same site where the double murder took place, you also had this gentleman killing himself. So then we fast forward to the 1980s. Supposedly in 1980, another guy grabbed a girl, took her to this spot, raped her and killed her. Now the murder in the 80s was not the same as the murder in 51. He didn't cut the breast off, all that, but there was rape, there was murder. So what I was wondering was, is it something on this site that is causing people to do this? Because there's a coincidence there, there's a correlation between the two. Or was it simply the guy in 1951 was a whack job, a sick whack job, and then the guy in the 1980s probably heard this legend and said, hey, that's a great place to do it, and he did it. That could also be. But that's kind of what I wanted to test out. So we go to this place. First of all, it takes a pretty long time once we get off the main road to actually get to the location. It's pretty far back there. We're on this gravel, dirt kind of road. And we come up to this little bitty bridge. And it's got 3 of those kind of culverts going through it. Now, according to legend, that's where he stuffed the body of the lady, the guy in the 80s. The guy in 1951, he put the body of the mother and the daughter up in this little wooded area. So when we first arrived to the site, it's extremely dark. There's no street lights, nothing out there. It's pitch black. So I start taking pictures up in the area where the bodies were found in 1951. I take a series of 15 or 20 photographs. In one of the photographs, you can plainly see what I thought at the time was a woman's face. So we decide we're going to get out and we're going to walk down to the bridge and check the place out and start doing a little investigation, do a little spirit box work, you know, the normal stuff that you do. So we walk down there to the bridge, we do a little intro for the show there. Andy tells the legend on camera. I decide, probably not very wisely, but I decide that I am going to go into the river and try to look inside these culverts, these tunnels that are going underneath the bridge where the body was stuffed in 1980. So that's what I do. I can't fit in the thing because I'm way too big. I'm 6'5", 300 pounds. I'm a big guy. I can't get in that little bitty hole. But I get down in front of it and I kind of film inside of it with the night vision and shine the light in there and all that. And they're all empty and there's nothing spectacular in them. So then we decide that we want to go back up by the car where I had gotten that picture. So we walk back up there and we start doing an investigation there. We bring out the spirit box and we start asking questions and trying to get somebody to talk to us. It didn't take very long at all for us to start to get a little bit of responses. And then something kind of strange happened that doesn't ordinarily happen. Usually you get random words and every once in a while you'll get something that actually applies. And then once you kind of find that, then you can kind of zoom in a little bit on it and you can start to narrow it down and really start to get a dialogue going back and forth with whatever you're talking to. Well, this kind of was a lot different than that. I was trying to get something to respond to me and trying to form a dialogue with it when out of nowhere a woman's voice came over the spirit box. And she wasn't saying random words. She was literally saying, "Help me," over and over and over again, in a very desperate and fearful voice. So I began to talk to her. I asked her what her name was. She said her name was Rhonda. And she kept saying, "Help me." And then she started saying, "Please help me. Please help me." I asked her if she was one of the women that was murdered on that site, and she replied that yes, she was. I asked her if she was the mother of the daughter, if both of them were killed there, and she replied yes, they were. She kept telling me that she needed my help over and over again, and the more she said it, the more desperate and scared she sounded. Now keep in mind, all of this is taking place over the Echo Box, over a spirit box. It's not like EVP. Okay, this is taking place on a spirit box to where normally you'll get a word or two, and then you have to kind of ask questions to get it to answer you again. She was bombarding me with "please help me" and begging me to help her. Well, come to find out, both her and her daughter were trapped there. They never were able to move on from that spot. The reason why they weren't able to move on is because the man that killed them would not let them move on. You see, he killed himself there as well. Not too long after they had died, they kind of hung around for a day or two, and he kind of joined them when he killed himself, and he kind of kept them prisoner there. He wouldn't let them leave, and he tortured them every day. Now, this has been going on since 1951, when they first died, where they've had to spend all of that time with the man that raped and murdered them, and he's continually torturing them. Now, needless to say, and if you know anything about me, if you've listened to this show for a while, I'm sure this will come as no surprise to you, but I kind of got a little pissed off at this point. I don't like guys that beat women. I don't like people that rape women and torture women. I think that is one of the most cowardly things in the world you can do. And I got very angry with this dude. So I called him out right there. I said, "Hey, I want to talk to the guy that murdered these women." And I demanded that he come and talk to me. So I said it a few times, and over the Echo Box I hear, "I'm here." So I proceed to tell him what I think of him, and that he doesn't have any power over those women. He doesn't have a right to hold them there and not let them move on. And I tell him that that's going to stop right now. That by the end of the night, he will no longer have those women. That I will make sure that they are able to get away from him and move on. Now at this point, he says something that I honestly cannot repeat on the radio because I will get in trouble. But let's just say it started with an F and it ended with a big old U. He was not thrilled at my proposal that he let these women go. So I gave him an option. I told him, you can either let these women go and let them move on, or I was going to make him let them go. Now remember, I'm very angry at this point, because while all this is going on, I hear through the Echo Box these women begging me to help them still. And now they are literally hysterically crying and begging me to help them. So I've had enough. I've had enough of the abuse. I've had enough of him running his mouth. I've had enough of these women being frightened and afraid and crying and begging. I've just had enough. It's time to do something. So I called Andy over. I called Brian over. We all huddled together and we did a prayer. And basically we helped these women cross over. Once they were gone, instantly it felt different. The moment before they moved on, the air was thick with fear and desperation and hopelessness and panic and just this raw rage and hatred. Those are all the emotions that were kind of swirling around in the air that you could literally feel. It was weighing down on us. But it seemed like the moment that they moved on, it all just went away. For a few moments, it was empty. That's the only word I can use to describe it. It was empty. There was nothing there anymore. It was just peaceful. Now, I wanted to make sure that they had in fact moved on, so I spent the next probably 15 minutes, maybe 20, trying to talk to them. I set up a K2 meter. I tried to get them to come over to that. I wanted to make sure that what we felt was reality, that they had actually moved on. The psychic that we had with us told us that they had moved on, but I wanted to make damn sure that they had actually gotten free of this madman, because I did not want to leave there and have them still being tortured. That just was not going to happen. There's no way I was going to allow that to happen. 15, 20 minutes goes by, nothing. Absolutely no sign of them. Now, one of the things that this guy, this murderer, had been saying to us as we're arguing back and forth is that those women were his. Because I kept asking him, what makes you think you have the power to hold them here? You don't have any power over them. And he kept telling me, yes, they're mine. They're mine. You can't have them. They're mine. F you. But after the prayer and after they had moved on, he kind of cowered for a little bit. According to our psychic, he was still there. She said that the women had moved on, that she didn't sense them anymore, but that he was still there, but he was cowering. He was afraid, which makes sense, because when you've been touched by the hand of God, it tends to shake you up a little bit. But he kind of got his strength back a little bit, or maybe he got a little braver, or maybe it just kind of sunk in that we had indeed did what I said we were going to do, which was get those women away from him. And he did not have his playthings anymore. Whatever the reason, he got extremely, extremely angry. Now, he was angry before, but he got very angry. At this point, when I hadn't got any responses for a while, I decided we were done because there wasn't anything going on. So we began to pack up all the equipment. I put the cameras away, everything. It was at this moment that a rock was thrown from the woods at us, and it hit the windshield of the car. Now, at first I was thinking, what the hell was that? That was a loud sound. And then looking around, we saw that there was a rock laying on the windshield. So I picked that rock up and I threw it down on the road, and I made sure there was no rocks anywhere on the windshield or anything, and it was all good. So then I turned towards the woods and I said, if that was you, do it again. If you want to throw rocks at us, I'm right here. I'll even make it easier for you. I walked all the way up to, there's like this chain that goes across that keeps you from going over onto the property because it's private property. You're not supposed to be there. So I walked right up to that barrier, to that chain. And it's not a fence, it's just a chain. But I walked right up to that chain and I screamed into the woods. I'm right here. Take your shot. At first there was nothing. It was just silence. And I started thinking in my head, man, this guy's kind of a wuss, you know? I mean, for a double murderer, he's kind of weak. It was at that moment that another rock came whizzing by my face and smashed into the car again. So I walked back over to the car to look on the windshield, and I did all of this with the camera, so it'll be in the episode. So you guys can see the rocks that were on the windshield. Before I could challenge him again, another rock came, and then another, and then another. It seemed almost as if it was raining rocks at that point. There was a lot of rocks coming. Also, at that same moment, the only way to really describe this is, if you ever lived in Texas, they have what they call dust devils. And that's basically like, it looks like a tornado, but it's a very small one that happens in a dusty area. And you can see the little tiny tornado whipping around and the dust is going everywhere. That began happening on the road that we were on, beside the car. Now, there was no wind blowing at the time, at all. That whole night, it was very still. There wasn't a wind at all. But there was a dust storm in the middle of the road that just started for no apparent reason. And it kind of fascinated us. We looked at it, and as we're watching this thing, more rocks keep coming. So I decide that even though it's private property and I'm not supposed to do it, I could go to jail, I'm going to climb over that little chain and I'm going to walk my giant self right up there into those woods where this guy is, or ghost, or whatever the hell he is. So I walk up there into the woods and I'm looking around with the camera and I'm trying to see what I can see. Once I get up there, things kind of get quiet. I'm only up there for maybe 30 seconds, something like that, because a car starts coming down the road And so I got to get back down out of the woods, back on the other side of the fence in case it's a property owner or somebody who lives in the area, so they don't call the cops. Because the way it works down here in the woods and in the mountains is if you're on private property, they will shoot you. And at the very least, one of the neighbors, if they see you on somebody else's property, will call the property owner, they will call the police, and within a matter of moments, you're in handcuffs. That's kind of how it works around here. So I didn't really want to be in handcuffs, so I come back down out of the woods. I get back across the chain before the car gets there. The car goes by. Now the car really slows down as it goes by and gets a good look at us and goes up a little ways slow and then finally moves on. So at this point I think, okay, we're kind of pushing our luck here because we're not really, I mean, you can be on the road, I guess, but you're not really supposed to be up in that area. And we've been there for quite a long time at this point. So I'm debating whether or not I want to go back over the fence and go back up into the woods again. As I'm standing there at that chain, looking into the woods, trying to decide if I want to climb back up that hill and go back into the woods, I see movement. Now, I don't mean spiritual movement. I don't mean the movement of a ghost. I see movement. Now, I've grown up all over the world. I've been in forests and woods and swamps and mountains, damn near everywhere. So I know certain movement belongs to predators. I know certain movements belong to prey animals. This was, to me, in my mind, it was a predatory type of movement. It was almost as if something was stalking. You know, it was hunched down and it was stalking there at the edge of the wood line, and it was kind of watching us. It could have been a bear. It didn't seem like it was a bear because it wasn't all that big. Usually when you're looking at a bear, it's a pretty large thing. Could have been a cub. But usually if it's a cub, they come right out in the open because they're usually not afraid of anything yet. They haven't had that much experience with man. They haven't been shot at. They haven't been, scared in any way really. And with cubs, mama's always not too far away. So that kind of gives them a lot of bravery to know that Big Mama's back there and she'll rip the face off of anything that messes with them. But it didn't seem like a bear. It almost seemed to me like it might have been a cougar. That's what I was thinking, is it might be a cougar up there. So what I decided to do is I grab a pretty hefty rock from the road and I chuck it right up into that area where this thing was, where I saw it. The idea here is if it's a cougar, if it's an animal of any type, it's going to run. It's either going to run away because it's scared, or it's going to run right for you and try to kill you. Now, as always, I have my 357 on my side. My hand is on it. I am ready in case something is going to come out of those woods at me. But the one thing is, when I threw the rock and I hit exactly where I saw the movement, nothing happened. Nothing ran away. Nothing yelled. Nothing. Just silence. So I kind of zoomed in with the camera, trying to see what I could see because I have night vision cameras. I looked around the best I could. I didn't see anything. I had reached the point where I was decided that I was going to go back up there and look again. And at that point, another car comes driving by. So I have to wait. After that car passes us by and goes down the road, a bunch more rocks start flying. And at this point, everybody is kind of getting sick of it. The girl that was there, that's our psychic, she was really freaked out at this point and kind of wanted to bail. She also did earlier on in the night when we were trying to get answers. I forgot about this. She did a dowsing rod session, which is very, very interesting. So if you have never seen that in action, what dowsing rods are, it's a couple of metal rods that a lot of times people will use to find water out in the country. They'll put them in their hands where they hold them, but they're not actually holding the metal. There's these little plastic rings that go around it that you hold, and the metal can swing freely. And you walk around and they point towards water. So you find where to dig wells and stuff with dowsing rods. That's the main thing they're used for. But also they can be used by somebody with psychic abilities to communicate with different spirits and entities. I had seen this on one other occasion in my life, and I got to witness it that night as well. And there was a very interesting dowsing rod session, and we had the Echo Vox running at the same time right beside it. So we were able to ask it questions that it could answer with the dowsing rods of either crossing for yes or moving them apart for no. And then also we got confirmation of those answers on the Echo Box at the same time, which was brilliant. Very, very interesting. So if you've never seen that, do yourself a favor and check out this next episode of Tales when I put it out, because it is very, very interesting to see. So we're debating whether or not we just want to pack up and go, or if we want to sit here filming the rocks being thrown, and which we did film a lot of that, so you'll get to see that on the episode. But I'm just wondering, is anything else going to happen? You know, anything bigger than this going to happen? Is this thing actually going to come out after us? That's what I'm waiting for. That's what I'm hoping for. That's what I want to happen so that we can do something. At this point, the only way to honestly describe this to you, and it's going to sound unbelievable, but at this point in time, the woods were filled with screams. It seemed as if the woods itself were screaming because there was no general direction that the screams were coming from, and they were extremely loud, extremely high-pitched screams. That's really the only way to describe it. Now, it's at this point that I'm like, what the hell? Why would the woods be screaming? That doesn't even make any sense with what we're dealing with here. So I don't know whether one of those cars that had gone by stopped a little ways up and decided to start screaming and mess with us because we're filming, or if it's a legitimate thing that's happening. There's really no way to know at that point unless somebody comes down. I know that the rock throwing started well before any cars came by, so I know that that wasn't what caused that. And I know nobody was up in those woods because I walked up there and looked, and I didn't see anybody at all. I didn't hear anything run away. I didn't see anything run away. I did see movement, but that was after all that took place, and I think that was some sort of animal. So at this point, we decide the batteries are almost dead in the cameras. We kind of got everything we could. I mean, we accomplished something. We freed those women. That was kind of my main goal once I found out they were there. And once all that began, that's what I wanted to do, is to get them free, and we accomplished that. So we decide that since we don't know for sure what these screams are, and we have stood there and listened to them for several minutes, and nothing has come, it's just screams. So we decide that we're going to get back in the car, and we're going to head on out of there. Because at this point, I can't film a whole lot more because the batteries are almost dead in the camera. So I don't have any more fresh batteries. I've used them. So I don't have any more. I had one extra battery, but that battery was sitting on the charger at my house because I forgot to grab it like a dummy when I walked out the door. Because I was in a rush to go ahead and get going, and I forgot to grab the extra battery off the charger, so the battery I have is toast. It's about to die. So we decided to pack up and head on down the road, so that's what we do. So that is the investigation that I went on recently. This was last week. That will be the new episode of Tales from the Abyss. I'm going to begin editing on the footage this week, and hopefully it will be out within a week or two. That we'll have that up on the channel for everybody to watch. It was a very, very interesting night, and there was some stuff that happened that I had never seen happen before. You know, it was really interesting. I can't explain the dust tornadoes that were happening. To me, that makes absolutely no sense because there was no wind. So it wasn't a natural phenomenon. That was something supernatural. That was something out of the ordinary that was going on that was paranormal. The stuff we got on the Echo Box and the dowsing rod session was awesome. It wasn't just a word that might apply here or there. It was literally two women begging for help. And we were able to free them and help them to pass over and move on, which to me made the night an overwhelming success. So that was the investigation. It will be coming up on the next episode of Tales. And I'm going to throw over to Old Boy now and get his opinions on that night from what he's heard and anything he wants to add.
Thank you, brother. It sounds like you guys have an interesting night. The first thing with I'm glad you got rid of those that guy that let go of those ladies, you know, the ones he murdered. those ghosts and got rid of them. That's great. You know, they got some closure. I believe that 100%. Now the screams in the forest or whatever you know when you were climbing that hill, the problem I have with that is, and I believe the dirt devil is that you had you had two cars come down, and there's a possibility that one of these people were messing with you, but it's not impossible that you didn't hear nothing. You heard something screaming and stuff. That, my personal opinion is, I hate to say it, there's a possibility with these cars that could have been them. Or it could have been something else watching you. Like you said, he was looking for the goat man. I believe there might have been something there, but the thing is, like you said, you thought you saw the guy stop down the road. They might have known you guys were doing something up there, you know, and kind of tried to mess with you. That's a possibility. But usually James knows, you know, when somebody's watching him or, you know, fishing around and doing stuff. So that is a possibility. The dirt devil thing, that's really crazy because I live in a high desert and we get those all the time. It's usually a gust of wind that catches up. It doesn't just happen. It's really windy when that happens. So I believe that's was something different. I've never heard of a death devil because like I said, I live in a desert. I see them all the time, guys. And it takes a lot of wind usually, not just out of the blue. It just happens. Maybe once, but all the time, no. That was paranormal. That was something messing with you guys. The throwing of rocks, that could be a possibility of something supernatural, or it could be that creature guy, something you were looking for. You know, it could be something watching you. It could have been a cougar, like you were saying earlier, too. And it also could have been those people in the car messing with you before they came down the hill. But that it could have been anything. But the scream thing's kind of weird, where you kept hearing screams. But again, there's people coming up and down the street, cars or road. I mean, the hill. But I don't think that's what it is. It's probably something paranormal with the dirt devils. That was real weird, and you had these eerie feelings like something, and you couldn't explain things because usually James will find out how to explain something. If he can't explain it, he'll go look it up. He'll find out what it was, and usually he'll find it. But usually he doesn't say stuff like that. Like, I can't explain something like this. It was kind of like when I was out in Redlands that when our camera guy got attacked. We're going to be doing, this is going to be a future show down the line. One of our camera guys got attacked in front of us while we were getting ready to film, and he had a big scratch on his back, and it happened right in front of us. And I've never seen anything like that. Like, I've seen people get scratched and stuff, but like right in front of my face, like right then. And it was really crazy, you know, pretty much same thing. We felt like we were getting surrounded. And that's what it might have been. It might have been paranormal, something messing with you guys. It could have been that thing that guy got mad at you. You were trying to help those ladies, you know, and you were getting mad, and maybe he was pissed off, and he was going to get some revenge and scare you guys. He might have followed you. You never know, man. You guys got to remember that when you go against some of these ghosts, he was an angry spirit or a demon. You got to remember they're going to come back for some revenge sometimes. Not all these guys are great. They're going to just go away. That's what people think. Like, oh yeah, we solved the problems. You might have released those people, the women, but you know, he might not got rid of him. And you know what? He might come back for revenge. You guys got to be careful. Remember that one too. So these things can follow you. They can follow you to your house. Bad things can happen. So that's one thing I'm going to remind you guys when you guys go, any people that's listening that does paranormal hunting and ghost hunting and ghost investigations, paranormal investigations, please remember when you do some of this stuff that some of this stuff can get, you took away some stuff they were torturing. He might have followed you guys. You never know. Or it could have been like he was talking about, that legend there. Could it be a possibility? I think there was probably something there messing with you guys, and it was probably supernatural. But there is a possibility one of these people in these cars did mess with you guys. But I don't think they did, because it was just probably where they lived. and was coming down the street, or they were just driving by. That happens, especially like, James lives in, there's certain popular areas, and some people live up in hills because he lives in Virginia. So like, it's weird living there. So I mean, there's places up on mountains, there's places on hills. It could have been anything, but like I said, there's probably something that was messing with them, and it probably wasn't human. These things are getting more and more crazier every time I hear them. You with people getting attacked or getting angry, and it gets to the point where me and James are very tough people, and we'll go, and like he was saying, he was going by himself, and I do the same thing. I went by myself on numerous things, and I forget sometimes not everybody's like that, and not everybody's like James. We'll go and basically walk through hell if we could, but some people are not gonna always do that. They're ghost hunters, but their life comes first, and I understand that. That's why we're different than anybody else, because if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna go out. I don't want anybody to go with me. Trust me. I'm gonna go out on my shield myself. But if I'm gonna die by myself, that's one thing. But I don't want anybody else to get hurt. And I understand some of these people. And these are people who've been doing this for a while, and they're still having issues. That there's this, that should tell you something, how bad it's some of this stuff is. Some of these things can kill you, and they could kill you good. And it should show you how brave James is. God, he didn't want to go climbing again, but he still did. And he carries a lot of people don't realize, this guy carries a gun. You can do it in Virginia. That's a different world than it is California. You have to have a permit to carry guns like that. Unless you're going and hunting, you have to have, and again, you have to have a hunting license. Except shotguns, they don't. If you're like in the middle desert, they don't say nothing about it. You can do that because it's bird shot and it's not a bullet. There's different laws in California. We're one of the most strictest places in the country with guns. I probably would have done the same thing. Looked at my gun, probably held my gun, and probably would have checked it out, because you don't know what could come out. Like you said, it could have been a cub or a bear. You never know. And just because it didn't come out, I mean, that sounds like it could have been a cougar, because cougars creep around like that. They ain't going to just come out like that. Plus, he saw people there. He might have sensed he might have been in danger. So that could be a possibility too, like James was saying earlier. And cougars are nothing to mess with either. You got to realize he lives out there with bears and cougars and snakes and stuff. Like here I have snakes, and we have coyotes and stuff like that. And once in a while because I live by the mountains, because where I'm at, once in a while we'll have a bear or a raccoon. We get some raccoons once in a while, but they're nasty too. But some cougars are nasty things, man. They'll kill you. So, but I really enjoyed this one. I was listening to him talk, and it seems like this place where they're at is pretty haunted and has a lot of history. And, I'm glad he took care of that killer that took those women, and they were asking for help. That would have been very airy, coming over the shadow box, the spirit box. I call it the shadow box. It's the spirit box, guys. Sorry, guys. I probably would have tried to help him too, like James did. It probably didn't make any friends when he did that, but good for him. I'm glad you got to help those women, because I don't like people who beat women and rape women. And I hate rapists, and I hate people like that do torture people. Women especially, or kids. Another one. I hate people who hurt kids. And I've always been like that, because I have had something personal happen in my life with a family member, and I absolutely hate people who hurt women. So I totally agree with James on that. I see where he was coming from, so that's why he was really trying to help these women get away from this entity. The guy killed him, and he killed himself, and that's crazy as it is. So it sounds like he killed himself and got his joy, and he was torturing these ladies even after death. And that's even sick to think about, that somebody can torture you even after they kill you. like the murderer, the killer that you got killed by is torturing you in your death. That's crazy. That's crazy to think about. That could be a possibility that happens. Think about that, James. If you think about, if you die, you by somebody like that, and they can torture you over and over, and you keep reliving the torture. That would suck. But pretty much, I think it was pretty much 90% haunted where he was talking about up on that hill. I believe there is a possibility somebody was messing with him, but I really highly doubt it because what he was saying in the story. Could have been a cougar, a little bit of a chance on that, but I really believe there's probably something messing with him. It's probably either supernatural or it could have been that goat man you were talking about, man. It could have followed you guys or something roaming around there. It could have been a Bigfoot. You've seen Bigfoot in those mountains before. It could have been something that sounds like whatever it was smart and it didn't go after you guys for some reason because it probably knew that you had something there to protect yourself. So that's all I got to say, James. I like the story, but thank you, brother.
See, the area that we were in when we were doing this, I want to explain this so that everybody can kind of get a mental picture. Once we left I don't want to say the main road, because it wasn't a main road, it was a back road, but it was at least paved. Once we left that paved road and we went on to gravel and dirt roads, we traveled on those for quite a ways before we got to the place where we stopped and did the investigation. So this place is way back away from anything. So it's not like it's on a high traffic road where there's a lot of people. We were there for several hours and it was only a few cars that went by. And the rock throwing and all that stuff happened before the cars that went by that slowed down and everything. That happened well before that. So in order for that to have been people, because I thought about this as well, in order for that to be people, those people would have had to have stopped their car far enough away up the road to where we didn't even see headlights, got out of their car, walked through the woods, probably half a mile, quarter of a mile at least, in the dark, through the woods with no flashlights, because we never saw any lights other than headlights when the couple cars went by. So they had to walk in the dark with no lights through the mountain to get over to the wooded area where we were to start throwing rocks at us. It just doesn't make any sense. And for us to not hear them coming, because when you walk through the woods, you make a hell of a lot of noise. Because there's a lot of stuff on the floor, on the ground there that makes noise when you walk on it. There's leaves, there's little branches, there's all kinds of stuff that rustle and snap and everything like that when you're walking through the woods. It's hard enough to walk silently through the woods during the day when you're trying to hunt, to not make noise, to scare away deer and stuff. That's very difficult to do. Doing it at night in the dark when you can't even see a foot in front of your face, because literally it was so dark out there that you could put your hand in front of your face and you couldn't see your own hand. The only way we were able to see what we were doing is we had flashlights and we have night vision cameras. So that helps a great deal to see what you're doing. But these people didn't have either of those things. Because if they would have had flashlights, I would have seen the flashlights. So they walked through there in the dark, in the middle of the night, way out in the middle of nowhere, in the woods. To me, I don't buy it. There's no way that could have been people throwing those rocks. Now, the screams, the reason I said that might have been people, and I have no reason to suspect that it was people, but we had that car go by and slow down about 15, 20 minutes before the scream started, maybe a half hour before the scream started. So there could have been a possibility that it was a person that was yelling like that. And because of that possibility of it being something other than paranormal, at that point I felt that the investigation was compromised from then on, because we don't know whether or not that's a person or whether it's something that's truly happening. And once you kind of reach that point, you just got to call it, unless there's something crazy that's going on right there with you. You kind of just have to call it, because you don't know if the evidence you're gathering at that point is real, or if it's something that somebody's doing to mess with you. So once it reached that point to where I wasn't sure what those screams were, but we had seen cars, I just felt that that was a good point to go ahead and stop, because at that point we don't know. You know, I don't want to continue on if it's somebody out there goofing around. Another thing I think is important to understand and to realize is, we talk about going on cases, we talk about going on investigations, we talk about going on hunts. We talk about that a great deal on this show, because we do that in real life. But what I want people to understand is, I am not your normal paranormal investigator. So in other words, I'm not going to a location that's supposedly haunted in hopes of catching maybe one word on a spirit box, or maybe get an NEVP, or trying to get a photograph. That's not what I do. I try to go after the most extreme things I possibly can. In order for me to go after something, one of a couple things has to have taken place. Either one, we are working a case for a client. So this is somebody that has had trouble with something that's paranormal, and it is causing them or their family harm. It is terrifying them. It is making their life a living hell. It is trying to actively hurt them. I get involved in those cases. If it's a demonic case where you have an attachment or a possession, my East Coast team is the official team for this area for demonic cases. So we have an actual exorcist from the Order of Exorcists from the church. That's what he does. So we are that team for this area that can actually handle those kind of cases. So when there's a demonic case, we're right on top of it. That's why we talk about demons a lot on the show. That's why a lot of the episodes we do have to do with demonic activity, is because that's what we do. We take on demons. We go and we help people. Imagine that you and your family are at your house. You're having a normal night, you eat dinner, you're watching movies, whatever. And then stuff like this starts happening in your home, to where you have some sort of either demonic or malevolent entity in your house that is actively trying to hurt you. There are things being thrown at you. It is making you ill. It is causing you to want to hurt people. Those kind of things. When that takes place, your life becomes a living hell. Now, I want you to ask yourself right now, what do you do in that situation? Who do you call? You cannot call the police. They'll probably lock you up in a nut job ward. You can't call the fire department. You can't call the Army, the Marines. You can't call anybody. Who are you going to call? You call people like me. My team handles those kind of cases. That's what we do. So we are the people that come in and we go to battle with whatever that thing is. And we help you get your life back. So when I go on an investigation, I'm not going there to play footsies. I'm not going there to make friends with a ghost and be kind and considerate to them and hopefully get some sort of response. When I go someplace, I'm going there for battle. I am a warrior of God. My job is to do battle with these things. So that's why I'm there. Because I've had people ask why we're confrontational with the entities sometimes instead of being nicer. Well, we're not there to be nice. We're there because those things are hurting people. So we have to do something about it. That night we were supposed to be going after the Goat Man. There have been a lot of stories of the Goat Man chasing people and running people out of that area. And I thought it would be a cool thing to go after and try to actually find and see if we could find it and figure out what it was. It didn't pan out. So we were kind of spitballing ideas of what we wanted to do that night since we were all together. We had all the equipment, the camera gear, everything was there. And then Andy told us about this legend, and it was a site of a double murder, and there was a copycat murder that took place like 30 years later. So I thought, hey, maybe it has to do something with that area. Maybe there's something there that is causing this behavior. It's worth checking out. So that's why we went there. But when we go, we're not going like your normal paranormal team goes to check out a place that might be haunted. So I just wanted to clarify that and clear that up for everybody so that you can understand when you see us do what we do and we are confrontational and we seem to want to fight these things a lot, it's because usually the things we're going after have either hurt people, killed people, or are making people's life miserable. So we are there to get rid of the thing. That's the whole point. And one interesting thing about this place is when I first started arguing with this thing over the Echo Vox, it literally called me out by name. It said my name on the Echo Vox. So it knew exactly who I was. And it knew exactly what I was going to do. And that's why it was so pissed off at me in the beginning. And then once we did exactly what I said we were going to do, it was absolutely furious. And I imagine we probably will have a run-in with this thing again in the future. That will not surprise me at all if we end up having to go back there and bring the exorcists along and everything and actually really just consecrate the ground like you would a church and just completely get rid of this thing. That might happen at some point. And if it does, then I will do my best to film that for you so you can see that on another episode of Tales. But I just kind of wanted to clarify that. So with that, I'm going to throw back over to Old Boy so he can do his shout-outs.
Yeah, thank you, brother. And that's what people need to realize. We're not your typical investigators. Me and James provoke these things, and I do things that most people won't do. I've been called one of the most extreme there is out there. We both are. I provoke these things, and there's reasons for that. I'm not trying to be their friend. Most of these people are trying to be on TV and try to show, I'm trying to help. No, you're not. You're trying to make money. Majority, I'm just being honest. A lot of these people who get into this are trying to make money. And I'm doing it because I want to do the most extreme stuff that people don't even want to touch. And I'll do it. And so will James. So I just wanted to clarify that. That's why we do this stuff. Because we love it. I love it. And if it kills me, oh well. We all gonna die one day. So that's the way I feel about it. And I want to thank everybody from ParaX for listening to us. I love you guys. Been great for years, the last couple years. Thank you. You want to check out our YouTube show, James Hershey Jr. Check it out, subscribe, listen to all our shows and other little bits we've done, little side shows too. We have merchandise. We're going to eventually put that on the YouTube page so you guys can get whatever you want. Shirts, I think he's going to try to do hoodies. We're going to try to do hats eventually. Blankets, all that cool stuff. So get it, guys, if you can. And I want to thank all you guys. I love you guys. We love doing this stuff for you guys. I love doing the show. It's always something different. Sometimes we do these so we can talk to people, tell people what we go through and what we deal with and what we see. And there's a lot of crazy things out there, guys. Remember that. There's things that people don't want to believe that exist that they do. There is things go bump in the night. And there's things creeping around. There's things watching you. You could be getting watched right now. You don't even know it. So I hope everybody has a good night. Misfits, sugar ladies, monster hunters, and demon lovers. I love you. And blessed be, and have a great night.
See, I do what I do because I am called to do it. It's just that simple. Yes, I absolutely love it. This is the greatest job in the world because I can help people. And to me, that's what it's all about. That feeling I get when I'm done with a case and that family can go back to their life and live again without being in complete terror every second of their life, that means everything. You know, I never charge a penny for my services ever. I do this 100% for free. I go on these hunts, I put my life on the line for free because I'm called to do this. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. You know, I've said I'm a warrior of God. That's not trying to build up some amazing image of myself like I'm some badass or something like that. It's literally because I am called by God to do this. This is what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. And I have faced some extreme things, and I have done some amazing things. But it is not my power that gets rid of any of this stuff. It's God's power that does it. Only through Him am I able to do what I can do. It's not me. I just either have the guts or maybe the lack of common sense that I will go running into that burning building to save somebody. I will go right into the middle of the worst things you can imagine to help and to save somebody, because that's what I'm called to do. So this is the point of the show where we do all the shameless plugs. So the YouTube channel is youtube.com/James Hershey Jr. That's where all the episodes are. The merchandise store is teespring.com/stores/staring into the abyss. That's where all of the merch is if you happen to want that. We have t-shirts, hoodies, posters, iPhone case. There's all kinds of stuff there. We're working on doing some other stuff. We try to keep the prices as low as we possibly can. Like I said, this isn't a money-making venture for us as far as the merchandise store is. We're not selling shirts and all that stuff to try to make cash. We keep it as low as we possibly can. The only reason it even actually exists is because we had a lot of people that asked for it, that wanted to be able to have merch. So I went ahead and did a store up. I'm not really trying to get rich off the store or whatever. So if you guys want the merch, it's there for you. If you don't, no worries. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for all the support that you give us. And until we speak to you again, love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you, and so do we. Bye-bye.